At the end of season 1, Silvio Dante is already what most guys in Tony's orbit wish they could become: stable, respected, and quietly positioned where the money moves without having to be the loudest person in the room. He is not the acting boss, he is not the official boss, and he is not the guy doing every street-level collection, but he is close to the center of gravity, and in the mob. That is where the safest money lies. Silvio's financial advantage in season 1 comes from the fact that he is not built like a typical soldier. He does not rely on one big score to feel like he is winning the week. He is more like an operator with a system. His income is structured, repeated, and easier to keep clean on paper compared to the guys who live off hijackings and random cash hits. That alone puts him in a different class. Even when the family is unstable, even when the politics are messy, Silvio still has a place where cash comes in every night, and that is the kind of thing that keeps a man comfortable during a storm. The heart of Silvio's season 1 earning power is the bada bing. The important thing about a spot like that is that it works on two levels at the same time. On the surface, it is a legal business with real customers and real revenue. Under the surface, it is a machine for laundering money, hosting meetings, leaning on people, and keeping the family's social life in a controllable space. A club like that generates steady income from drinks, VIP rooms, fees, and all the little streams that add up. But the real value is how easily it absorbs dirty cash and turns it into something that looks normal. Silvio is sitting on a faucet that can be adjusted depending on heat, opportunity, and the needs of the family. Beyond the club itself, Silvio's money is tied to gambling and sports betting. Even in season 1, he is the kind of guy who can oversee a bookmaking operation without needing to chase every customer personally. That means he benefits from volume and consistency, not adrenaline. Gambling money is perfect for the mob because it is always flowing, always in cash, and always expandable. If you have the right people collecting, it scales up fast. Silvio's role puts him close to those streams, and that's why his income is more stable than Christopher's, less chaotic than Paulie's, and less exposed than some of the pure street earners. Now, the key point for season 1 specifically is that Silvio is not yet at his peak power, but he is already financially comfortable. At this point, Tony is maneuvering into control after Jackie's death, and Junior is holding the title. In that kind of environment, Silvio becomes even more valuable. He is not a guy you worry about flipping sides for a better offer, and he is not a guy who creates drama. That dependability matters financially because it keeps him close to Tony. Proximity to the decision-maker is a form of income on its own. The more Tony relies on him for advice and stability, the more Silvio stays in the loop on what is coming next, which means he can position his operations in advance and avoid expensive mistakes. So what does that translate to in concrete numbers at the end of season 1? A realistic estimate for Silvio's annual income by that point is about $250,000 to $400,000 a year in 1999 money. If you want the tighter version inside that range, I would place him around $320,000 a year as a practical midpoint, because he has a strong legitimate front, steady gambling adjacent income, and ongoing access to side percentages without being the top tribute collector. In terms of net worth, he is probably sitting around $800,000 to $1 million, with a decent portion of it in cash or assets that do not scream attention. He is not living in a mansion like Tony, but he's not sweating bills either. His wealth is quieter, and that is the point. The way Silvio spends also tells you what kind of earner he is. He does not feel like a guy chasing status to prove he belongs. He dresses well and looks sharp, but it reads as uniform, not a flex. That suggests discipline. He is not constantly trying to buy a new identity the way Christopher does early on, and he is not hoarding out of fear the way Paulie does. Silvio's relationship with money is managerial. He sees it as something that needs to be kept moving and kept useful, not something to worship or fear. There is also a protective element to Silvio's finances that matters in season 1. Most mob guys make their money in ways that create constant exposure. You have to be seen collecting, you have to be seen threatening, you have to be seen meeting the wrong people. Silvio can earn while being visible in a way that looks normal. A club owner being around his club does not look like a criminal on its own. That makes his income easier to maintain without bringing immediate pressure. It also makes him the kind of guy who can survive leadership changes, because his value is practical. No matter who is boss on paper, the family still needs a stable place to conduct business and launder money. Silvio is plugged into that role. By the end of season 1, Silvio is basically the model of what a smart mob earner looks like in a modern setting. He is not chasing every dollar, he is positioned so dollars come to him. He is not relying on violence to create income, he is relying on infrastructure. In a crew full of volatile personalities, that makes him one of the safest bets financially. He is not the richest man in the family at that point, but he might be one of the most secure, because his money is tied to systems, not moods. If you want, I can do the same end of season 1 concrete estimate essay for Junior next, because his finances in that exact window are weird. He has the title, but Tony is quietly controlling what actually reaches him.
At the end of the Sopranos season 1, Paulie Gualtieri sits in an interesting position within Tony's world. Not at the top, not at the bottom, but close enough to the center to feel important. He's a soldier in the New Jersey family, part of Tony's inner circle, but he's not yet a capo. Still, Paulie stands out as one of Tony's most loyal and reliable earners, and his financial situation, by the end of that first season, reflects that. Paulie has been in the life longer than most. By 1999, he's a veteran gangster, having started under Johnny Boy Soprano decades earlier. That means two things. He's experienced, and he's already built up a decent financial cushion. He's not rich like Tony or Silvio, but he's comfortable, cash always in his pocket, a Cadillac in his driveway, and enough hidden away to feel secure. He lives modestly, probably in a middle-class New Jersey home, but he's not struggling. He's been around long enough to have seen good times and bad, and he plays it safe by sticking close to Tony, ensuring his stream of envelopes never dries up. Paulie's main money comes from traditional mob sources, hijackings, gambling, and protection rackets. He's the kind of guy who makes his money on the street level, but with the authority of an old-school soldier. He doesn't have the sophisticated fronts Tony uses, like Barone sanitation or real estate scams, but he doesn't need them. For Paulie, it's about volume and consistency. Envelopes from Shylocks, payments from local businesses, and cuts from whatever scores he and his guys pull off. Each envelope might only be a few $1,000s, but they add up quickly. Over a year, that could easily total between $150,000 to $200,000, not counting side hustles and under-the-table deals. Unlike Christopher, Paulie doesn't blow money on drugs or flashy purchases. He's a tightwad, superstitious, cheap, and borderline obsessive about money. That trait actually helps him build wealth quietly. He's the kind of mobster who hoards cash in coffee cans or hides it in the walls. His paranoia about the IRS, the feds, and betrayal means he keeps as little as possible in traceable form. He's likely sitting on at least a few $100,000 in hidden savings by the end of season 1, much of it in unmarked bills. But what really defines Paulie in this period isn't just how much he earns, it's how he earns it. He's reliable, disciplined, and ruthlessly loyal to Tony. When Tony becomes acting boss after Junior's arrest, Paulie aligns himself fully with him, seeing where the real power is moving. He's not the type to challenge Tony's authority or to scheme for his own empire. He's an old-school soldier who believes in hierarchy and obedience. That mindset ensures his financial stability. He knows if he stays loyal, Tony will take care of him. At this point in the series, Paulie also represents the bridge between the old and new mafia worlds. He remembers the glory days when mobsters lived by a code and feared the bosses. But he's also adjusting to Tony's modern therapy-attending version of leadership. Financially, that makes him cautious. He's not expanding his operations or looking for new hustles. He's maintaining the ones he trusts. It's steady, safe money, the kind of earning that doesn't attract law enforcement heat, but keeps him respected among the crew. By the end of season 1, Paulie is in one of his best positions yet. Junior's arrest clears the way for Tony's full control, which means Paulie's loyalty investment is paying off. Tony sees him as dependable, and that will translate into more opportunities in the future. Bigger cuts, more respect, maybe even a promotion. Financially, he's solid but not extravagant, with total assets, mostly cash, probably in the $300,000–400,000 range. For a street-level soldier, that's real money, the kind that buys long-term security and the comfort of knowing he doesn't have to answer to anyone but Tony. In short, Paulie at the end of season 1 is the picture of a veteran mobster who's done well enough to live comfortably, but not so well that he forgets the hustle. He's cautious, calculating, and quietly building wealth the way gangsters used to envelope by envelope, week by week. His financial success isn't measured by extravagance but by survival, and in Tony Soprano's world, that might be the smartest kind of wealth there is. Christopher Moltisanti is a man stuck between two worlds, the romantic fantasy of being a gangster and the ugly day-to-day grind of actually living it. He's not yet a made man, not yet trusted with big envelopes, and not nearly as rich as he wants people to think. Christopher's season 1 story isn't about control of money, it's about his inability to control himself. Christopher enters the show as an associate working under Tony Soprano, doing collections, hijackings, and errands. By the end of the season, he's on the cusp of becoming a soldier, but still at the bottom of the ladder. His authority is limited to a couple of small-time earners, like Brendan Falone, before his death, and some low-level drivers or runners. He doesn't yet have his own crew or steady racket. Most of his income depends on Tony assigning him work, hijacking trucks, collecting from gamblers, or enforcing loans. Every payday is unpredictable. Sometimes he scores thousands, other weeks, nothing. In mob terms, he's a freelancer hoping for promotion. At this point, Christopher's income is small, but diverse. He makes money from hijackings, like the Comley truck job in early season 1, small but fast cash. Collections, low-level extortion and debt pickup for Tony and Paulie. Bookmaking assistance, sometimes helping Silvio or Pussy with betting clients. Side hustles, selling stolen goods, occasionally dipping into drugs. On paper, Christopher's annual income by the end of season, flipping played, probably sits between $80,000 and $50,000. Roughly $50,000, 2 under 7. Today, with inflation. That's comfortable for a 20-something from Newark. Enough for flashy clothes, a car, and a decent apartment, but far from the financial independence he craved. His net worth likely hovers around $150,000 to $250,000, including cash savings, a vehicle, and minor assets. But net worth means little to Christopher. Every dollar he earns evaporates in a rush of spending, partying, and insecurity. Christopher's biggest weakness isn't earning, it's discipline. He burns through money like it's proof of his identity. In season 1, he's seen buying suits, treating Adriana, snorting coke, and gambling away his winnings. He wants to feel like a gangster more than he wants to build one's wealth. His spending mirrors his mindset. Impulsive, insecure, always trying to show he belongs. Unlike Tony or Silvio, who view money as stability, Christopher treats it like validation. Every flashy expense is a defense mechanism against his fear of irrelevance. This financial immaturity defines him. He's perpetually broke, not because he's underpaid, but because he confuses visibility with power. Money for Christopher is less about comfort and more about status. He wants the luxury Tony has, the house, the respect, the envelopes full of tribute, but he hasn't earned the structure to sustain it. His frustration peaks in season 1's midsection when he complains that he hasn't been recognized, that his arc hasn't happened yet. This frustration drives his poor decisions. He hijacks a truck without permission, starts writing a screenplay about mob life, and kills Emil Kolar impulsively over territory. Each move shows a man desperate to jump the line. Tony sees it and warns him. Slow down, earn steady, prove loyalty. But Christopher can't. His impatience makes him a liability, and his erratic spending keeps him dependent. By the end of season 1, Christopher's money represents his identity crisis. He's caught between the idea of being a gangster artist and the brutal truth that he's a low-level collector. His earnings show that disconnect perfectly enough to play the part, not enough to live it for real. He buys suits but can't buy respect. He talks about making a movie but can barely afford to finance one. His cash flow mirrors his self-esteem. Loud when he's on top, empty when he's ignored. Tony's world is built on control. Control of money, men, and image. Christopher's world at this stage is built on chaos. Every payday is followed by a hangover. Every job by a crisis. Tony sees Christopher as both family and future. But Tony also understands something Christopher doesn't. That wealth in the mob is about patience. When Tony collects envelopes, he's playing the long game. Steady cuts, long-term stability. Christopher wants that life immediately. His resentment leaks out in every scene where Tony hands him advice instead of promotion. Financially, this dynamic defines their relationship. Tony gives him enough to live comfortably, never enough to be independent. Christopher, meanwhile, sees every withheld opportunity as an insult. It's not greed, it's insecurity. He wants to prove he's capable, even if it means risking everything for fast cash. Christopher's biggest financial problem is emotional. Money for him fills the gaps left by approval, purpose, and recognition. He doesn't invest it, he consumes it. Every expensive jacket, every bar tab, every impulsive act is an attempt to feel important in a world that constantly reminds him he's small. When he writes his screenplay, You're Dead, he's trying to turn his chaos into meaning. When he kills Emil Kolar, he's trying to prove he's not small time. When he spends recklessly, he's trying to silence the doubt that he'll ever be more than a soldier. His money, like his mental state, comes in bursts, hot, fast, unstable. By the season 1 finale, Christopher Moltisanti is the definition of the lower middle class mobster. He's not broke, but he's always a few bad weeks away from it. He has potential, but no structure. His ambitions outgrow his reality faster than his money can follow. In Tony's family, where hierarchy defines worth, Christopher's finances reveal his exact position, valuable, but replaceable. At the end of The Sopranos season 1, Christopher's entire life can be summed up in one word, almost made. Almost rich, almost respected. He's earning decent money, living better than most men his age, and close enough to real power to taste it, but not enough to touch it. His lack of discipline keeps him spinning in circles, and his hunger for validation burns through every chance at growth. Financially, he's small time in a big world. Psychologically, he's already chasing ghosts of status and success he'll never quite catch. For Tony, money represents control. For Christopher, it represents escape. And that's why, even as his pockets fill, his hands always feel empty. By the end of The Sopranos' first season, Tony Soprano stands on the edge of a new reality. Jackie Apperly Sr. is dead. The New Jersey family is fractured, and Tony has quietly maneuvered himself into the top position. While Corrado Jr. Soprano holds the title of boss on paper, everyone inside the organization knows where the real power and the real money flows. The first season closes, not only with Tony's emotional reconciliation with his family, but also with his near-complete financial and operational takeover of the North Jersey underworld. In 1999, the mob in North Jersey runs on three things: envelopes, kickbacks, and control. Tony's strength lies in his ability to collect from all three. As the de facto boss, he takes cuts from every earning crew beneath him. Paulie Walnuts, Silvio Dante, Big Pussy, and even Junior's men send tribute up the chain. Each week, Tony receives envelopes stuffed with cash from gambling, loan sharking, hijacking, construction, and stolen goods racket. Tony also benefits from semi-legitimate fronts. The crown jewel is Barone Sanitation, a waste management business that launders dirty money while generating genuine contracts. The company gives Tony the appearance of respectability twos, tax filings, and something to tell his kids when they ask what he does for a living. Alongside that, Tony holds interests in the Bada Bing strip club, Silvio's domain, construction kickbacks, stolen car operations, and local gambling spots like Satrial's back room. He isn't a specialist, he's a man who takes percentages from everything. His power doesn't come from any single hustlet, comes from being at the intersection of them all. If we translate this into numbers, Tony's take-home by the end of Season 1 probably sits between 1.5 million and 2.5 million a year, equivalent to roughly 2.84.5 million today when adjusted for inflation. That estimate fits FBI data from real New Jersey families of the era, where acting bosses often cleared between 1 and 3 million annually through tributes and kickbacks. Tony's net worth at that stage likely ranges from $3 to $4 million. He owns his mansion in North Caldwell outright, keeps stacks of cash in his basement, and likely holds more in untraceable offshore accounts or safety deposit boxes. He isn't Wall Street rich, but for a man who never finished college, he's in the upper echelons of suburban wealth, just hidden behind cash bundles and no paperwork. Tony's expenses are huge, but consistent with his rank. The house alone would cost over $1 million in 1999, and he maintains multiple luxury vehicles, private school tuition, and family vacations. Still, his entire lifestyle is paid in cash. Every time he reaches into the fridge for cold cuts, the mortgage and car payments have already been taken care of through illicit envelopes. But the other side of that financial comfort is volatility. When law enforcement heat rises, operations stall. When Junior taxes the crews too hard, Tony has to placate his earners. His income fluctuates weekly, tied to the mood of his captains and the police blotter. That instability feeds the anxiety that brings him to Dr. Melfi's office in the pilot episode. Tony doesn't just manage money, he carries the emotional weight of knowing it can disappear overnight. One of the cleverest financial moves Tony makes in Season 1 is letting Junior be the boss on paper. By giving his uncle the title, Tony diverts FBI attention while still controlling the real flow of money. It's a mob accountant's dream. Junior pays taxes in blood and legal exposure, while Tony collects the revenue. For a few months, Junior tries to flex authority, taxing crews and demanding tribute. The result is chaos pussy hides. Jimmy Altieri is exposed as an informant, and cash dries up. By the finale, Tony's retaliation dismantles Junior's income streams completely. What remains is a family where Tony collects the money and Junior gets the title and name only. Tony's financial strength depends on his men's productivity. Paulie is the old-school workhorse steady envelopes, reliable profits. Silvio is the middleman who handles gambling and advice, keeping operations efficient. Big Pussy, before flipping, brings in cash from stolen cars. Christopher is small potatoes, but full of ambition. By spreading his dependence across multiple earners, Tony insulates himself. No single man can sink him financially. This decentralized Moodle capo handling a few rackets independently mirrors how real families survive FBI crackdowns. It's Tony's natural business instinct to make himself the one person everyone needs while needing no one completely. Money in The Sopranos isn't just income, it's psychology. For Tony, wealth is proof that he's winning. It's the metric by which he justifies everything. The cheating, the violence, the therapy. Yet he never truly enjoys it. Even as the first season ends with him surrounded by family in Vesuvios during a storm, the camera shows that success hasn't given him peace. He's rich but restless. By the end of season 1, Tony Soprano is effectively the richest man in New Jersey's underworld. He has millions in assets, a thriving web of rackets, and near total control of his family's economy. Yet every dollar he earns is built on anxiety, secrecy, and violence. His money buys comfort, but not safety. In purely financial terms, Tony finishes the first season as a self-made millionaire earning more annually than most CEOs in his neighborhood. But in personal terms, his wealth is already a curse. Every envelope of cash that lands in his hand deepens the hole he's trying to climb out of in therapy. The tragedy of Tony Soprano begins not with poverty, but with prosperity that offers no peace.